In researching personal finance and debt freedom tips, the Dave Ramsey tips you find are definitely ones to pay attention to. And researching the best hacks and advice is exactly what you should do when you start on your financial freedom journey. So, who is Dave Ramsey? Dave Ramsey may be an outspoken financial guru, but his advice and teachings are solid. He became famous for his easy-to-follow baby steps to financial peace. With financial advice on everything from emergency funds, side hustle ideas, and destroying debt, you're bound to find the answer to just about any financial questions. However, if you do not have enough time to do your research on him, then this video is for you. In this video, we have perfectly summed up the best money hacks and tips Dave Ramsey wants everyone to know to get their finances in order and start living their dream life. But before we start, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more similar content like this. Now, let's begin. Create a zero-based budget with the envelope system. Have you heard about this one? The concept is that if you ran your budget and paid your bills entirely on a cash system, you'd set aside the money for each line item of your budget in its very own envelope. As a zero budget, you'd have every penny of expected income each month assigned to an envelope in your system. When you only touch a set, smaller amount of money per bill, you're way less likely to overspend on anyone's budget item. This can definitely be done just as well with a non-cash system. It just requires a little more diligence and discipline on your part. Stop buying new cars. Or, honestly, don't buy any cars for as long as you can, new or otherwise. His concept is this: as soon as you drive off the lot, your investment depreciates, i.e. loses value. If the average brand new car depreciates in value by 18% in its first year alone, it clearly makes far more sense to buy a one-year-old car for 18% off the sticker price instead. The best way to avoid falling for this common pitfall is this: when you decide you want a new car, but you don't in fact need one, find the car you want at the best deal you can find, then figure out what the monthly payment would be. Out of your monthly budget, assuming it's within your budget to do so, set the amount of cash aside in a cookie jar until you've saved up the cash value of that car. It's a long game, but the satisfaction of not accruing any more debt, plus owning the car outright when you drive off the lot, is incomparable. Buy a modest home you can afford. The biggest expense most people have in their life is their home. Dave's advice is to buy a small, modest home so you don't overextend yourself. A good rule of thumb is keeping your housing expenses under 30% of your take-home income. Better yet, give yourself some more wiggle room and keep it under 25% of your take-home income. If you fall into the trap of buying too big of a home, all your other expenses will follow. You will also naturally buy more things to fill the space in the house. Keep things simple and buy a comfortable house your family can afford and give you a good quality of life. Keep your current cell phone. In today's culture, this is probably one of the hardest concepts to wrap your head around. If you ask Dave Ramsey for tips for cell phones, he'd probably tell you that so long as it still makes a call and maybe can send a text, it still works and doesn't need replacement. Have you ever thought about that when doing the typical 2-year upgrade on your phone? Why are you paying someone a ridiculously high full price for a phone that does exactly the same thing your last phone did? Instead of buying a brand new phone just because it's 2 years old, keep your phone until it literally doesn't work anymore. At that point, buy a phone that's 1 to 2 models old or used/refurbished instead of wasting money on the latest new models. There are so many benefits to having a frugal lifestyle, and saving money is just one of them. Pay off your credit card balances each month. A lot of people fall for the corporate trap that to be affluent, you need to charge it to your card. Typically, the only people who truly benefit from this are the credit card companies. Sure, you might earn some rewards, but how much money do you need to spend to earn a 1% reward that's worth something? When you get $1 for every $100 spent, it might be a better idea to just pay cash and not run the risk of accruing a 12 to 30% interest charge. If you can't seem to break the cycle of getting charged interest on your cards, Here, Dave Ramsey's best advice is his famed plastic surgery. Cut up the cards and say good riddance. Pay cash whenever possible. We've already talked about good debt/bad debt, credit cards, and cars. Every single time you pay with any method besides cold, hard cash, you run the high risk of paying over and above the actual price due to the IOU fee, also called interest. You might argue that same as cash financing is a good idea because it's no interest. Perfect, right? Wrong. Next time you use a 0% financing offer with a credit card, run the math. You'll find that your statement minimum payment does not equal the actual monthly minimum required to pay off the balance in full by the end of the promotional period. You don't actually need a credit score. A lot of people like to tell you that you need a credit score or else you won't qualify for a loan. I'll ask you to see number 6 and realize that if you always pay cash, you'll never need a loan. So who cares? And despite what the mortgage companies and realtors tell you, you do not need a credit score to be approved for a mortgage. The mortgage companies make interest on your use of their financial products, and many realtors get small commissions for referring clients to companies and banks they have a relationship. As Dave Ramsey so accurately says, the only way to get a credit score is to borrow money. So your score goes up, so you can borrow more money. It's an eye-opener worded like that. Have an emergency fund. Paying cash for everything and avoiding as many sources of interest charges as possible sounds like you'll be good to go, right? Well, misery loves company, and problems are bound to come up sometimes. Where to put an emergency fund, you ask? When you build your small, fluid $1,000 emergency fund as part of following Dave Ramsey's advice, you'll want that to be cash or an easily accessed savings account. This will cover things like smaller car repairs or furnace repairs. As you make it through Dave Ramsey's baby steps, you'll eventually build a much bigger emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses should some seriously bad luck hit. This should also be a fairly fluid account.